You know, a very, very petty part of me wants to start by singing, holiday is over. And maybe that's where we should start, because today is Monday for some people. But just a reminder, it's Tuesday morning. Welcome to Sunrise Daily, your daily dose of sunshine. I'm Maokpe Ogunyusuf.
I remember seeing the WhatsApp update of colleagues saying it's so sad that the holiday is over while still on the bed. Well, needless to say, that fellow has already gotten up and gotten to work. Welcome, I'm Ayo Makinde. Well, the temperature in Lagos is 29 degrees. I wonder what it is in Abuja.
Well, I can tell you it's 28 degrees, but do not be fooled. It's going to get hot as 34 degrees Celsius much later in the day. Ayo, I understand you're taking us to a bridge that's about to be closed in Lagos. Is that what's happening now?
Well, let me take you to a bridge that is not being closed, which, of course, connects to the bridge that is about to be closed. This is a co-bridge, and it's one of the 3 mainland bridges that we have in Lagos. There is the 3rd mainland bridge that everybody knows, but then there is a co-bridge, there is Carter Bridge. Each of them is the 1st and the 2nd. Of course, they're not so-called, you know, as at this time. Anyway, this is a co-bridge. It's a major arterial road, a major arterial bridge in the city of Lagos, and it serves as a vital connection between the mainland and Lagos Island, which begins at Ijora on the mainland side, terminating at Apongbo on the Lagos Island side. Now, this bridge, from what we know, was constructed in phases over 10 years, between 1965 and 1975. And we can also let you know that this is one of the bridges that connects to the bridge, Maokwe, that is being closed. Of course, we'll get more on that later on in the program this morning. But what are your memories of this Eko Bridge, Lagos? You know, people still mistake Eko for Lagos or Lagos for Eko. I don't know if you can confirm, Maokwe.
Indeed, Ayo. You know, people, yeah, well, if you're speaking Yoruba and you're saying Eko, oftentimes you refer to Lagos. Either you refer, the entirety of Lagos. But it's actually Lagos Island, which is, you know, the place traditionally referred to as Eko. But, you know, generally, so for instance, as I live in Abuja now, if I were speaking Yoruba and I want to say I'm going to Lagos, referring to the state, I would say Muloseko, which means I'm going to Lagos. The person whom I'm speaking with would generally assume that I'm visiting any part of Lagos State. But there is actually Lagos Island, traditionally referred to as Eko. So, yeah, there is actually a place called Eko in Lagos. So, yes, Ayo, you're very, very correct. But I think oftentimes it also depends on the context, even though oftentimes they're used interchangeably. But, yeah, talking about bridges, my early memories of Lagos, you know, your perspective changes when you are in the passenger seat versus when you are in the driver's seat. Because, you know, when you're in the passenger seat, you're there taking it all in, admiring the many bridges of Lagos, the infrastructure, looking at the scenery. But I tell you, when I became a driver in Lagos, I knew it was no time to be admiring the scenery. I knew it was time to keep my eyes on the road, knowing that if you climbed on the wrong bridge, you
will end up in the wrong location.
You will know where you'll meet yourself. You know, to get your bearing back might be one hell of a turn. So it's just best you keep your eye on the road. Look out for the markers, which, you know, I think Abuja can learn a bit from in terms of describing which road leads where. One of the things that immediately strikes you when you compare Lagos and Abuja is the fact that you don't have a lot of signages, you know, describing where you are, you know, where you should turn. It's improving a bit slightly in the FCT, but we certainly can do better with regards to helping people navigate their way through the city, especially through the complex bridges and flyovers that we're building here and there. But yes, one of the things that immediately strikes you when you get to Lagos are the many bridges, especially when you're going to the Apapa, Ijora, you know, that particular area, Lagos Island, VI, you certainly see a lot of bridges. And that's why Lagos State, you know, people have said, oh, the federal government did that when Lagos used to be the capital. You know, Lagos State has always argued that it should have a special status, that, you know, some money should be reserved for it so that it can continue to maintain the infrastructure as, you know, more and more people continue to come to Lagos seeking either a better life or a new life. And that there's strain being placed on the infrastructure that was built in Lagos, which clearly is, you know, will I say is, yeah, clearly inadequate to meet the population growth, the population explosion, you know, of Lagos State. I came across a video very recently, a video of Abuja when it was being constructed in the 1980s. And the reporter, yeah, who was a foreign reporter, you know, could not believe that this bush will one day become, yeah, the bush at the time in 1980 would one day become the capital of Nigeria. At the time, he said Lagos was choking on petrol fumes and was clearly overpopulated. This was in 1980. If Lagos was overpopulated in 1980, over 40 years ago, what do you think has happened to it now? So I think that sometimes politicians might need to set politics aside and take a second look at what it is that is the, well, I said the nerve center of Nigeria. It's a commercial nerve. You can't take it away from Lagos. It's by design, let me put it that way. It's a port city. It was a former capital. It's been there for many years. I think that at some point we might need to take a second look. But it's a good thing that, you know, from time to time we get the federal government intervening. The federal government still clearly intervenes in the maintenance of infrastructure, which we're going to be seeing much later in the program. We will be speaking to a federal controller about that to make sure that this time around they have it all planned. Don't forget the traffic that happened on the 2nd of April. I can forget. Because that day was a significant day for me. You know, which brought Lagos to a standstill. From what we understand, people didn't get home until 5 a.m. the following day. People who had left their homes by what time? The whole of the state was on a lockdown. Why? Because a particular road was shut down and was being reconstructed without notice. So this time around, there are big questions as to whether, you know, they have the proper planning, whether all has been set at ease. I know I've been talking a lot, but so much for your question on, you know, Eko and Lagos. It was you who looked for trouble.
Well, that is Lagos 101 for some people because, you know, a good number of people don't even know the meaning of the bus stops or the areas in which they live. And those carry significant historical, significant stories for people to go with. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll tell you more about that bridge, as Markwe has highlighted to you. We'll be speaking with someone who has all of the information. We understand that the bridge closure is scheduled for the 27th of this month. Well, today is 22, so we have some days. What are the questions you have about the closure of Ijora Bridge? Is it Ijora Bridge or Marine Bridge? That conversation is still ongoing as well. All of that clearance when we return from this break. To stay with us.
A lot of the bearings are defective, and it has been awarded for some time now. They've been working where they could work without disrupting traffic, but now they have to really disrupt this traffic now. So this bridge will be lifted up, and at 3 sections, we have about 50 bearings to change for 8 weeks. That's the reason why we are here. Traffic diversion has been planned to take traffic from here. You can see it's a wide junction, so they can go straight like this, go to 7-Up roundabout, and then link the bridge from there to Apapa. And then the heavier ones can go straight from Coste and then go to Igomu and then link Apapa. We do not envisage any issue here, but Nigerians must know why and Lagosians, most especially, must know why they need to close this bridge. That's why we are here now.
Well, yes, you just heard the Federal Controller Works Lagos State, Mrs. Olukorede Kesha, who joins us now on the program to explain more as to the bridge that will be closed, why it needs to be closed, and for how long it will be closed. Ma'am, you're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning. Welcome to the program. We did hear you explaining to journalists there who, had come to that, let's say, is it a mini press brief as to why the road has to be closed. From what day will we be closing? Is it the Marine Bridge or the Ijora Bridge? What exactly is the proper name to? Are they the same bridge? And is it this, are we talking about the same infrastructure when I say Ijora or Marine Bridge? Let's start from there first.
Good morning.
Oh dear, it does appear that we have
Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay.
Good morning,
Okay, ma'am, you were frozen for a moment. We could hear you at some point, but somehow we lost you again. I do not know if you heard my question. I was asking if Ijora Bridge and the Marine Bridge were one and the same bridge. Perhaps we start from there.
I did hear you, okay? I did hear you.
Okay, please go ahead.
Ijora Bridge can be described as a marine bridge, but Ijora Bridge can be described as marine bridge. But mainly, the marine bridge is the one we're talking about now that we want to do. And it spans from when you're coming from either Ido through Ijora Causeway, or you're coming from Eco Bridge and you ram down to Ijora, and then you need to go to Apapa. That's the bridge, your link between that Ijora axis to Apapa. So it can be rightly described as marine bridge.
Okay, so as long as Lagosians know that the bridge they call Ijora Bridge, or that authorities call Marine Bridge are one and the same bridge, there should be no confusion, should there?
There shouldn't be no confusion. It's the one that takes you from Ido. It takes you from Ido if you're coming from the island, and then you join the Kata Bridge to go to Apapa. It takes you from Ido through Ijora Causeway, and then it takes you up to the bridge, that's the Marine Bridge. Then if you go down, you're going to Ijora 7 up. It's a bridge that flies up and takes you into Apapa. That's what we're talking about now. Is a bridge that we intend to close by Sunday, this coming Sunday.
Okay. How long do you intend to close it for?
Actually, it's going to be for 20 days. We have 3 sections to be closed down for repairs. We have about 50 bearings to change. The contractor has been on site. We've been changing a lot of bearings. But this last 50 will necessitate that we lift up the bridge at 3 sections. The first section is at the beginning of the bridge. So we will close it for 20 days. The second section is at the middle of the bridge. That one, we may not close it. We will do traffic diversion. There, the 2 lanes coming from Igomu, they have now merged. So we can do diversion to one side.
Okay, it does appear that not all of the bridge will be closed for all of the duration of the repair work. But yes, we're still hoping to get our connection back with you, Madam Kesha, on this important closure that is going to happen, because we want to know just how much of an impact. We know that sometimes in Lagos you close a very small area and it impacts the entire state. So it will be very helpful to have an idea if the assessment has been done as to how this is going to impact traffic, because that area that she's mentioned, Yes, I think she's back now. So, ma'am, you were explaining to us that the first section, you've divided it into 3 sections. The first section will be closed for 20 days. The second part you might not close because you might be doing a diversion. And the third part will be closed for how long?
Yes. For another 20 days. The diversion will be for 20 days. Then we move forward. We move forward to where the bridge meets Apapa, where it descends to the area B side. Then we do that one too, we divert for another 20 days. So altogether, we need 60 days. But the most critical days will be the first 20 days. Other ones we won't close outrightly. There will be points of diversion at the midspan and at the end of the bridge. So the alternative routes that we want people to look into is costing. If you're a heavily laden articulated truck, there's no need for you to come to Ijora. Just from Costain, link Igomu. From Igomu, you access Apapa Straits. Mokwe, did you hear that?
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Then, if you still have business to do at Ijora 7 up, if you're articulated trucks, you can go straight. You won't have to go up the Marine Bridge. You just go straight to Ijora 7 up. And even smaller vehicles too, straight to Ijora 7 up. You will not have the opportunity to climb the bridge to Apapa. And if you still want to go to Apapa through Ijora Causeway to Ijora 7 up, after the roundabout, at the roundabout of Ijora 7 up, you just turn left. There's an access ramp that takes you up that bridge again. So you just go. But we're advising the articulated trucks to go straight from Costain.
Okay, so it does appear once again, that we have had another technical issue here. But Ayo, I was going to call you into this conversation because as she's speaking, my mind is doing a geographical map out. And, and it's been a while since I have been in that particular area of Ijora and Costain and Ido. I know that there is a very big market, a market, you know, that... will I say, a port of some sort, a port market where people come in from all parts of Nigeria to come and sell foodstuff at the Ido market. I do not know if the bridge is anywhere around that particular area that we're looking at. Maybe you might help me with my geography here. I do know that whenever it is I'm going around that axis, my heart is usually in my mouth and I'm looking very clearly at my map because, you know, one wrong turn and you'll be at the wrong destination. So,
you know,
perhaps you'll be able to help, you know, other Nigerians, especially Lagosians, you know. Okay, I hear Madam Kesha is back. Madam, if you can hear me, I was just going to ask you before I try to bring Ayo into this conversation.
I heard you.
Okay.
I heard you. This bridge now, let me give you description now.
Thank you.
If you're coming from Qatar Bridge, you're coming from Ilubirin. Ilubirin. Do you know Ilubirin now?
I do.
You know, what, there's a wide junction outside Ilubirin. One goes straight to Third Mainland.
Yeah.
So the other one goes to Qatar Bridge. So when you climb that Qatar Bridge, it takes you to Ido. If you want to go to Apapa, as you climb like this, you just meet a Y. One takes you to Ido, the other one takes you straight to Apapa, to Ido Bridge. Ido Bridge is where Aden is, Aden Tank Farm. As if you're going to Loma side. That's Ido Bridge. Are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you now pass that Aden side of Ido, you are going straight to Apapa. So when you go straight to Apapa, there's National Theatre at your right. So after the National Theatre, if you are going straight, if you don't enter into National Theatre, you're going straight to Ijora 7 up. But if you want to go to Apapa, at that white junction, there's a bridge that takes you up to Apapa. That's the Marine Bridge.
Okay, so how many kilometers are we looking at here? How long is the Marine Bridge, and how many kilometers is it?
The Marine Bridge is less than a kilometer.
Okay. Okay.
It's less than a kilometer.
So
but it's a very critical bridge.
For this, given the critical nature of the work that's going to be done, how are you also getting the information out there to those who really, because I see you're very particular about articulated vehicles. How are you getting the information to them so that they have this information in good time?
We still intend to do press briefing with major stakeholders, and then we're going to invite all the union leaders.
Okay. So I'm going to hand this to Ayo now as a Lagosian. I'm sure he certainly will have more questions around stakeholding. Ayo.
Don't forget that there are indigenes and there are residents of Lagos, but don't let me get into that conversation right now. Well, madam, first of all, help me understand, because you know that many people who use these infrastructure, they don't really know their names. When you talk about Eko Bridge, you talk about Kata Bridge, many people who, they just know Lagos and they live in Lagos. They don't really, I'm not sure they know these bridges, but that's not what we are talking about right now. In this conversation so far, you've mentioned Ido Bridge, you've mentioned Marine Bridge, and you've also cited it that it could also be called Ijora Bridge, or you know. So help me understand, how many bridges are in that cluster, and how do they all connect?
The major bridge is this Marine Bridge. Marine, that's the major bridge. And we have Ido Bridge. Ido Bridge is small. Ido Bridge is about 100 meters. That's the bridge that you have an underpass in front of railway, Nigerian Railway at Ido. It's a small bridge. We intend to close it too in the shortest possible time. Are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you, madam.
We will mount barrier almost immediately after this now, because we need to repair that bridge. And apparently all the bridges in Lagos are receiving attention. You will agree with me that most of those bridges, they are ancient. They are so old, and then if we cannot replace them, then we need to put them in good shape so that it will be a safe place for all of us to ride on.
There was news.
So we have a good problem in our hands now.
Okay.
That all our bridges are receiving attention,
yes,
which was not so before.
Yeah. Well,
so it's either we allow these bridges to be repaired, or we want.
We understand that. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that we'll get that connection back in a while. But we understand that at some point.
So this Marine is the one that takes you from from Ido Bridge. That Ido Bridge is the one that have an underpass in front of Nigerian Railway at Ido. That bridge, if you go straight, go straight.
Yeah,
if you
I understand that, madam, if you can hear me.
But if you go straight and you want to go to Apapa, Marine Bridge is the next bridge you're climbing to go to Area B. It descends straight at Area B, Area B police station.
All right, that is noted, madam. But I also remember that there is news out there. I mean, you may also have seen it. Well, is it the same Marine Bridge that was closed in December and opened in February?
No, that's the main Ijora one. That's the access ramp. Access ramp. If you're coming from Apapa and then you want to go to Ijora, the ramp that you will descend, instead of going straight to Funshaw Williams Avenue,
Okay.
And that was the one that was closed. You descend down to Ijora 7 up. Then you go through CFAS.
Okay.
To Lagos State Water Corporation, to Hayden, and then you go to Kata Bridge.
All right.
That's the one that was closed. That's an access ramp.
Now,
not a bridge per se.
Yes. You've made it clear that this is going to be on for 20 days. What are the alternatives? What are the alternative access routes that you are proposing to Lagosians in particular, and those who will be coming to Lagos for the first time during the closure?
There are two major alternative routes. It's either you do not have to, if you're coming from Funshaw Williams, you don't have to get to Ijora. Just go straight from Costain roundabout. You take your right in front of Nigerian Breweries. You go to Igomu. Then you go straight. There's a CFAS there too. And then you go straight and link this marine bridge that we're talking about.
Okay. Well, we really do hope to get that.
Road, you'll be going through the...
Oh, dear. Well,
you will be passing through Ijora Causeway. Then you go down. You go down to Ijora.
Really wish we had this direction clearer, and I'm hoping that at some point your office, madam, will be able to put this out in a press statement for people to know where and how to navigate so that they can avoid the traffic that's likely to build up as a result of the closure of the marine bridge. And just to also let some people know that it is not the Ijora Bridge, as you have heard her say. It's another bridge. You know, there are two other bridges. She also mentioned two other bridges. One of them is not really a bridge, according to her. It's just, you know, some kind of ramp that leads, you know, out of the environment. So now you know. But then let me take it back to Markwe. Maybe she has one or two other issues to discuss before we close it. Markwe.
Well, Madam Kesha, we're hoping that we'll be able to get you in the studios, because this connection has been really, really poor, so that people can hear you much more clearly and much more clear. And maybe by that time, we'll also have aerial shots of that particular portion which you're speaking to, so that it is a lot easier for our viewers to understand, because it does appear that media houses are reporting that it is Ijora Bridge, and you have clearly said it is not Ijora Bridge, it is Marine Bridge. So we're hoping that in that, before the closure, perhaps, we'll be able to get you in our studios to, give a clearer picture of what will pan out and what the impact of this will be on traffic, and how you're going to be collaborating with the state traffic authorities as well, to make sure that the impact is not as bad as what we saw on the 2nd of April this year, when, traffic came to a standstill. If you can hear us quickly, the minister did say people were going to be punished for what transpired, on the 2nd of April. Has anything been done in that regard?
I think the minister has answered that time. They did try to answer that while they were sleeping. So I don't think it's a point for me to discuss it.
Well, we're just taking an update in that regard, but we certainly will keep tabs with you. We have to thank you for coming on the program. Olu Korede Kesha is a federal controller, works in Lagos State. Thank you for speaking with us on Sunrise City. Well, we're switching gears very quickly now to security. It's been on the front burner, and it does appear that, it's not ceasing anytime soon. Clearly, as they should be, focus is on was more really around the north-central region of the country. We understand that the governor of Benue State has called out for help from the president, saying that it does appear that there is a siege on his state by unknown assailants. It's unclear, but clearly they can see that the death toll is going up. As of yesterday, it was 52. This morning, it has gone up to 72, from what we understand. We're talking about human lives here. 72 people dead as a result of attacks from unknown assailants. So clearly, there is a call for help. Also, in Plateau State, this is something that we're all aware of. Excuse me, in two communities, in two local government, Bokos and I'm trying to remember the second one now, but yeah, Bokos and Ambassa local government areas, over 100 people were said to have lost their lives in a span of 2 weeks. So clearly, the focus is still around security. Yesterday, there was a peace walk in Plateau State held by citizens and residents of the state who walked to the governor's office. And this was what he had to say to them in response.
Isn't it time that our hearts became united to deny this fallacy? I look forward to the day any of us could be picked upon, whether Muslim or Christian, irrespective of ethnic loyalty and identity, that we will say the same thing for the world to hear. That what is happening on the plateau is nothing short of genocide, perpetrated by terrorists, and that we need to say, because if we don't speak with one voice, there are many advisors who will advise even Mr. President to believe that we are the aggressors, that we don't like to accommodate visitors. I think we need to rub hearts together. I want to appeal to all of us. This is the time to show that you are a lover of Plateau. This is the time that we must hold one another's hands and don't throw one another under the bus.
Oh yes, you heard the governor of Plateau State there, Caleb Muftuang, talking about a genocide happening on the plateau perpetrated by terrorists. Well, we're now being joined by Mohammed Bada, who is a rights activist and also the convener of Civil Society Alliance for Transparency and Development on Sunrise Daily. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Morning, Malpe. Thank you for having me.
Well, this is what we have seen now. In the last 1 month, it's been a really bloody time in north-central Nigeria in particular. I do not know if you are concerned about everyone must be concerned clearly about the resurgence, because it would seem that we had seen a tapering down of this sort of crisis for some time, but it does appear now that it is now escalating and, we're now recording the loss of more lives. From your own analysis, what do you think the matter is?
Well, as it stands now, the scale and the spread is something we have not seen before. And this is a point where we just have to draw a line in the sand somewhere. We heard the governor calling for unity, calling for everybody to speak with one voice. I think this applies across board. All Nigerians just have to come up and speak to these issues, because it's looking like it's moving beyond just a security challenge to a governance one. Because this is a time for urgency, this is a time for accountability from those who are tasked with managing these security issues around this place, because the area we're talking about is basically the food belt of Nigeria, where the major chunk of our food production takes place. So everybody has to be concerned, and the government must show urgency, and the government must show accountability. The government must show that it is committed to justice in these matters.
Justice. But by government, which layer of government are you referring to?
Well, the federal government controls virtually every level of the security architecture. The major parts of it, are vested within the federal government. So the federal government has to step in and show that commitment. We've seen elections where we hear about many thousands of policemen and army personnel and civil defense being deployed. So we want to hear that kind of statement, at least to reassure the people and to send a message to whoever is the aggressor or who is the victim that this has to stop. And also, we have people living in IDP camps who are practically abandoned, living in very, 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 very inhumane and inhuman conditions. These people need to be reassured. Government needs to reassure them. We have a government that prides itself as one that came on the banner of renewed hope. These people need hope, because the worst thing that can happen to a people is when a sense of hopelessness has become pervasive and it has become the norm, where people are just waiting like sitting ducks as it stands now.
And two statements, immediately come out to that, because yesterday, beg your pardon, 2 days ago, a former chief of army staff, Lieutenant General T.Y. Danjuma, spoke, in Taraba State when he was talking to a group of people. He was also making references to some incidents that had occurred in Taraba with regards to kidnapping. And this time around, he called for self-defense. That citizens cannot be sitting ducks, and that the people should be allowed to defend themselves. Do you think that we're at that point yet, where citizens should be allowed to defend themselves, if we're seeing that the security agencies cannot be everywhere at the same time?
Well, what he said is practically in line with what the DG DSS has also been on record as saying, that there's a need to arm communities, there's a need to train them reasonably to be able to defend, to be the first line of defense before the security forces come in. So I think we are getting closer to that point. But for this to be effective, the issues of accountability, the issues of justice need to be addressed rather urgently.
When you speak of accountability, what are you talking about?
Well, there are all kinds of accusations flying around. I don't want to get into that. Those are very muddy waters. I don't want to get into all of that. But there are all kinds of accusations flying around. Oh, this is the aggressor. Oh, that is the provocator. Oh, these are reprisals. These are this, these are that. But in all of this noise, we have not found an effective solution to this problem. Lives are being lost. Today we are talking about 72 people in Benue.
Yeah.
These are not just 72 human beings. These are 72 potentials. These are 72 multiplied by infinity of what they could have contributed to the economy of this country, to our national development, to our continued existence as a people, cut off suddenly from the system. So where we are right now is where there has to be accountability. So if people are saying that, look, oh, somebody is taking sides, oh, these people are not protecting us enough, we need to see more commitment being shown at those levels. Government has to come down to their level and engage with these people to know what the issues are from their own perspective. Because right now it seems that everybody is just talking over the heads of the people who are actually in the theater where these things are happening.
Well, you mentioned you've already talked about justice, even though you say you don't want to get into the murky waters. The governor of Plateau State doesn't seem to be shying away from the murky waters, because when you use a word as heavy as genocide, clearly, some people will say that is calling for attention. And clearly, you know, it speaks to an agenda. And we've heard this over and over again by people who live in the Middle Belt, that there seems to be an attempt to want to try and change the demography. That if we go and check some of the communities that have been attacked over the years, that some of these communities have emptied out, and people whom they do not know have moved into these villages and are now living there. They're occupying these places. Would you say that government has, you know, done enough to debunk, you know, allegations that this could be a genocide?
Well,
excuse me.
The presidency did release a statement a couple of days back saying that the governor should also make efforts to address peace. So I assume that what he is doing is putting the ball back in their court. But indeed, the federal government has to do more than what it has done so far. Our troops are fantastic, they're wonderful, they are people that, as a civil society practitioner, I've engaged with them on so many different fora, at so many different levels. But the leadership has to lead. And leadership means leading from the front, showing direction, taking a stand. We do have to draw a line in the sand where this is concerned. So in the terms of the government has to make some statements.
By the government, the federal government?
The federal government,
because the state government clearly is speaking.
Yes, the state government is speaking. I mean, tomorrow morning, the commissioner of police could be called back to Abuja or transferred to wherever. So ultimately, the bulk of the powers, the bulk of the responsibility for security lies at the federal level. So the federal government has to do more. This is not the time for blame games. This is not the time for politics. This is the time for government to step in and take a stand, because the people need to be reassured, which is not happening at the moment. Because you talk to these people, there's a sense of hopelessness around them. They just feel that, look, whatever happens, we'll do what we'll do to protect ourselves. But if that's the end, so be it. You cannot live like that.
And it is even more pervasive when you think of the fact that in a place like Benue, there is still existing an internally displaced persons camp, you know, peopled by people that have been displaced from communities in that particular state. And when we talk about IDP camps, oftentimes our mind goes to the northeast of the country, especially Borno, that has suffered the brunt of terrorism over the years. But even Borno State has managed to be able to get its people, you know, those who are willing and able to go back to their homes and communities, they've been able to resettle a lot of those people. And so it draws question as to why it is that we have let this problem linger for so long in north-central parts of Nigeria. Is it that it's something that we're incapable of? Is it something that we're unable? I think we're just showing visuals now of some of these camps in the Benue area of Plateau, beg your pardon, the Benue area of Benue State. It's really, really quite worrisome that just a few hours from Abuja, we have IDP camps, and it is of people from communities that have been displaced by this raging insecurity in the area.
Well, it's quite disturbing. It's really quite disturbing. But again, it speaks to the fact, like I alluded to earlier, that this is a governance issue. It's no longer just a security challenge. Security challenges happen anywhere in the world, but the question is always, how are these issues addressed? What is the stance that the government has taken on this matter before the people will now follow? Because whether we'd like to admit it or not, there is a certain level of mistrust between the government and the governed in this case, and which has led probably the Plateau State governor to speak out. Okay, he's the chief security officer of a state. He's reasonably allowed to use certain words and to say things the way they are because he's responsible to his people. And in response to them, he's saying, look, this is where the problem lies. So it's up to the federal government not to come back and try to counter him or to come back and give us opinions upon opinions on what is going on, but to show a resolve that, look, whatever the grievances, whatever the misunderstandings, whatever the injustice that may have been done to any of the sides in this matter, this has to stop. There are state mechanisms for addressing grievances. We need to resort to those.
I understand my colleague Ayo has questions for you. Ayo.
Thank you, Margaret. You know, sir, we had the governor of Jigawa State with us on this program, and in speaking to these issues, one of the things he said was that there is a need for the locals themselves to be engaged, and I think you have also alluded to that as well. The question that I'd like to ask you is, it's not the government that is killing its people. It's not the federal or state governments that is killing its people. It's not even the local governments that are killing their people. Is it that the people themselves cannot find a reason to live together in peace and harmony? Don't these issues, we all know that these issues date back decades. Can't these issues be resolved even among the people themselves and not make it something that is strictly government? Because we have had governments in and out over the past 20 years and the issues have remained the same.
Yes, when I say government and the people being engaged, I want to refer back to what the DGDSS said, that the communities themselves should be armed, should be trained on handling weapons and defending themselves, being the first line of defense before security forces step in. But government has the primary role. The primary function of government is security and welfare, both of which are lacking at the moment. So it speaks to the leadership issue. How is this situation being managed? Who are responsible, and are they doing their duties? Because if we say people should live in peace and harmony, and the caliber of weapons that it takes to be able to end 70-something lives in less than 24 hours means that this has gone beyond just people living in peace. It has gone to a level where there has to be a very, very strong response, a very, very coordinated response, which we are not seeing at the moment, because the people will follow
my
the leadership.
If you can hear me, Mr. Bada.
If the right leadership is not provided, then what do we expect the people to do?
Just 1 second. Can you give us an idea, if you know, how this whole thing started? The president alluded to it as having started more than 20 years ago, and a host of people agree with the president on this. Do you have any idea how this whole thing started? Because I'm sure it didn't start at the scale at which it is right now.
Yes, initially we were told that this was just a climate-related issue, population-related issue, and then a struggle for resources, because the grazing lands, the grazing waters have been overrun by development. People have taken over the places where cattle and all of that used to graze. But now there has to be a solution, and finding that solution does not rest with the people. It rests with the government. Yes, this has been around for a couple of decades, yes, but never at this scale. And now we have gotten to where we are. The question is, how do we pull out of where we are before we begin to talk about who caused what? Because now lives are being lost at a very, very atrocious scale. So the question really is, how do we come out of where we are? Not necessarily who caused what, because we've had all kinds of
the reason for that
angles
is not
being brought into it. It's an agricultural angle, it's a struggle for resources.
The reason for that is not really far-fetched, because if we don't know, I mean, we have heard it also said that the people, fomenting this trouble are not unknown, they are not faceless, and that they have an agenda. Marquez spoke to that earlier. So when we are talking about where it's all coming from, it's not about finger-pointing. It's about knowing the root cause and dealing with it. The president said enough is enough. That sounds to me like someone saying, look, we know what the whole agenda is. Can we put an end to it? Get to the real issues and not lose lives unnecessarily. So if you would proffer something, you've spoken about leadership and all, the government will come into the community, solve the problem, and still live. The people still have to live together. What are the issues of dissonance that need to be dealt with? Otherwise, or failing which, government will still have to be coming in and out from time to time. Or are you asking for a state of emergency?
Well, as it stands now, state of emergency could come if the government feels that that is what is needed. All we are saying is government should do what is needed and show intent. They should show intent to resolve the issue. They should make a very, very strong statement that, look, this has to stop. The president, it's all well and good that he has made a pronouncement in Abuja that, look, we have to stop this, we have to put a stop to it, but it has to translate to real-time action on the ground. The people have to feel that the government
What kind of actions are you looking out for, Mr. Bada? Just a second. What kind of actions are you looking out for specifically from the state government and specifically from the federal government?
From the state governments, I expect to see more engagement with all sides of this crisis. And from the federal government, I expect to see deployment of more security forces, first. Then secondly, also engagement. Because the way and manner this thing has been handled points to a leadership problem. Like I said earlier, we have a minister for defense who seems to be disconnected every time. The president is briefed on an issue, he makes a pronouncement, he gives directives, he gives orders to people who are supposed to handle these issues. So if those people are not doing it, it behoves on the president to also take some more action to rejig the system, to rejig the security architecture. Security is not just for the security forces alone, it's not just for the government alone, it's a multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder affair.
So we should be seeing more of those kinds of engagement, particularly with the federal and state governments. Do you think that a meeting will be necessary?
Meetings are quite necessary. And meetings not just in Abuja or in Jos or in Makurdi, but meetings, town hall styled, with the people who are involved in these issues. So if they are saying that the people who do these things are not faceless, go meet them. Who are they? Where do they live? Can we also go and talk to them to know what the issue is from their own perspective?
Interestingly, we saw that when the first attacks happened in Bokos. We saw the NSA visit, we saw the data, we saw the Chief of Army Staff visit, we saw quite a number of prominent people at the helm of security in the country visit that particular area and have discussions. And at the end of the day, they come out and say, oh, there needs to be more collaboration, or there needs to be, people need to sheath their swords. I think one particular one we heard, said that, I think it was that of the Chief of Army Staff, said the political solution is needed. It seemed that it was clearly out of the realm of just security, but that, they had to find a political solution, which some people will say political solution sometimes is the alternative to justice in clear terms. I don't know how you see that, because you are thinking that we should go along the lines of justice. But when you hear from the Chief of Army Staff that the political solution might be needed, what does it tell you?
Well, the Chief of Army Staff is answerable to his Commander-in-Chief, who is a politician. So when he's calling for a political solution, it's not necessarily saying that we should go partisan or we should go political about it, but he's simply saying that, look, the leadership...
It's in the hands of the politicians.
Yes, it's in the hands of politicians. I mean, we have one of the issues is the Minister of Defense, for me, has not been forthcoming on this issue. So he's a politician. To me, at least to my mind and from my assessment of the situation, he has not spoken the language of the military. He has not also made himself available for the people, because if you're coordinating and you're managing all the security forces as he is, then you should also be engaging with the people to have a better understanding of what the issues are and what kind of directives and instructions you'll be passing on to the security forces as well as to the president and other members of cabinet who may be responsible for certain other aspects of the issues that are on the ground. So as a minister, he should be in the forefront, but he's a politician, he's also a former businessman. So to me, I don't think that he's fully abreast of the issues.
Well, the president returned to the country yesterday, and I think a lot of Nigerians will be waiting to see what will happen, what difference his return to the country will make in the crisis that has now, engulfed parts of Plateau and Benue State. But we have to thank you very much for coming back, for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Mohammed Bassa is a rights activist and also the convener of Civil Society Alliance for Transparency and Development. Thank you once more for coming on the program. Well, that's where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Sunrise Daily. Thank you so much for being a part of today's program. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, we can see your messages, Honorable Alalade, Professor Inakena, and the rest of them. Thank you so much for your time. I'm Ayo Makinde. Enjoy the rest of your day. Business Morning is next.